Today we're going to be making and finishing the cover of this lovely journal. Okay, last time we finished off here where I glued this piece of cloth to the back board and seam there. So that's nice and firm now, and the pages flip over lovely. So now I'm going to concentrate on the cover, and over the next few weeks I'm going to do a few different covers for my book, so those will be in other videos, but today I want to do a fabric cover. And what I've done first is I've got two pieces of card which are just cereal boxes stuck together, and I measured round my journal, leaving a little edge top and bottom and down the side, and I want the back just to be level with the spine there. So I measured 4 pieces of card out and I've stuck those together, and they're nice and firm now. So I want to find some fabric, and that takes the time. I've been looking through my stash and I went for blue initially, but then when I looked at the first page, this is going to be on the back board, I wanted something that would go with that, and initially I thought maybe one of these plain greens, but it was a little plain. I thought for an art journal colours go okay, but I might use one of those for the back of the journal. But going through my stash, I found this piece of fabric, which is one I've made up from various pieces of cloth, and my favourite colour, green. And I've measured that up against the board, although it's rather thick in places because it's backed with a white lining. And if you want to know how to do this, I'll put it on the video on the link below. But I think I'm going to get quite a nice cover from that. I need enough so that I can give a good edge on each side and top and bottom, so I've got to cut it out carefully, because the backboard, when I glue it, if I can just show you, will go to about there. So I need this over the edge. I think that will go quite nicely. But we're jumping ahead of ourselves. So what I've got to do is cut out a piece. I don't think I've got enough for the back as well, and I don't really want to make up any more of this, so I'm thinking I may use one of these for the back. So I'm going to figure out which piece I want where, and I'm going to cut out a good margin, and I'll be back then to show you how I stick it down. Okay, so I pressed this piece of cloth. Now I probably picked the worst piece of cloth to show you because it's quite thick, and you're better to really go for a nice thin piece or paper, but I'm going to be challenged doing this. Just move that to one side. I've pressed them both, so what I need to do now is decide which way up I want it to look. I think I want those down the side of the opening and that towards the back, and then I'll flip it over, and I want to make sure that I've got enough to fold over, and this is where the problem comes when it's so thick. But anyway, I'm going to try. So I'll put a little mark where I want it to go. I could use the PVA glue on this, but I think I'm going to go with the spray glue again. So I'm going to spray this with glue and this. I'm going to do that outside again, and then I'll place this on here and press it down firm, and then I'll come back. Okay, that's nicely stuck on there, and I've smoothed it out. So now the challenge to fold this over here, and I think what I'm going to do is use some double-sided tape, because once this is over here, I'm going to be sticking my page on here, cardboard page. Firstly, I'm going to cut the corners off because that will help with the folding. I don't want to go too close, so I'm just going to leave a little margin, and I'm going to just mark that just to make it easier to cut. It's always easier to follow a line, isn't it? I say you could make it much easier for yourself using thin paper or very thin fabric. I always like a challenge. Right, I'll cut those. I'm not using my nice fabric scissors because I'm worried that it's so thick it's going to damage them. So I'll carry on doing this and then I'll come back. Okay, I said it would be a challenge. So to really press down the corners I've had to use some more tape. And my problem now is that because I've used this fabric, this is going to be so raised when I place my lovely backboard on it that it's going to show. So I'm going to put slightly smaller piece of card and I'm going to spray both of them, place it on there, and then I'll put it under some books just to make sure nice and firm, and then I'll have a flatter surface to put my backboard on. With the back of the book I won't have to do that because I've got very thin material. So I'm just going to cut a piece of this because I thought this was quite nice. It goes with the blue on this image, sort of. But it's very thin material, so it's going to go on there very nicely and not cause me lots of problems like this one has. But I chose this fabric and I want to go with it because I just love the texture and all the colours. So I'm going to do my best to make it flatter. I'm going to have to really glue this and take some of this tape off so that doesn't show. Okay, and then I'll come back when I've done that and I've done the other board, and then we're ready to stick it to the book. Now I've had everything pressed under books, it's all glued nicely. So now I've got to glue the backboard to these boards, and I'm just going to line up the page about there. And I'm going to continue with the spray glue because again I don't want this smudging, and I'll spray glue that side and this side and then match them up like that, spray this, pop that on the top, and I'll put it under a few books for 24 hours. I shall just put this inside just to protect when I'm spraying, and then what we've got to do is find a suitable fabric to go over the spine, and it'll be glued onto this area just to cover the spine up. So I'll be looking out for some fabric for that. A lot of gluing and pressing, and it takes some time really to do all this because you know you want to make sure it's glued well. So I leave it under some heavy books for nearly 24 hours, and then you know it's nice and secure. So I'll come back with my fabric ready to show you how I'm going to do the spine. Okay, I'm not going to lie, it was quite difficult getting the backboards on with the spray glue, and when I'd got them on in the place I wanted so that they were right for the spine, they were a little bit out of line here and it looked horrible. So I've used some washi tape, put some extra glue on it just to neaten the edge, and I suppose as it's an art journal, it didn't need to be neat, but I couldn't live with it. And the same that side. I think that blends in all right. So on to the spine. Now with these previous journals, I've put the spine underneath and caught it in with the board because I wanted to show all that fabric. But I'm going to try and put it over the top of this one. So I've chosen this fabric. So I'm going to need to cut some card. Okay, so I've measured the spine, and when it's squeezed in, it's about 1 inch, and then the length of mine is 9 inches. So I've made this piece, or cut this piece of card out. I'm going to place on here. I'm going to use my spray glue again off camera, but what I'm going to do is glue, oh no, it'll be this way, glue an edge down so I've got that neat to go on the book, and then measure 1 inch back so that this goes in the spine. Glue these edges down and then measure 1 inch and a little bit for the seam there and cut down there. And when I've done that, I'll come back and show you how I'm going to stick it onto the journal. Well, my camera wasn't on for that piece, would you believe, but I've just stuck it. I put some PVA glue on because I could be a bit more accurate than the spray, and I've just glued the back of this edge, not here, and the back of this edge, and I'm just going to put it under some books to help it glue, and then I'll come back and show you. So that's the cover finished. I'm really pleased with it. I love the colours, and on the back I've just added some lace. It is a little pocket. I've just glued them with double-sided tape, but I haven't put anything in there. I just think it looks quite nice with the lace on its own. So that's it, completed. So the next video will just be showing you the flip through of the completed journal. So do join me for that. Bye for now everyone. Happy crafting.